Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Blissful Literati. In our last discussion, we had seen how to change the tense when we shift gear from direct speech to indirect speech. And in this session, we are going to discuss about the changes in pronouns and some adverbs and adjectives, especially of place and time when we change the speech from direct to indirect. Now, before we start the discussion, we are going to revise the terminology a bit to jog our memory. And in the meantime, you, my dear listeners, you better keep your pen and notebook handy to make the most of this video. Don't hesitate to pause, rewind, take notes, and repeat. So let's begin. Now, when we talk about direct speech, you must remember that we actually mean the particular section which is put under quotation marks, which somebody directly says to someone else. So, direct speech is when a speaker himself says something directly or is quoted directly by everybody else, anybody else, somebody else, whatever. But the point is, when this happens, we have direct speech. So somebody exactly quotes someone else. That is direct speech. Remember that. Now, for example, we can have I am okay. Now, this is directly quoted. Somebody said I am okay, and I am putting it within quotation mark, not changing a single word or expression, and directly repeating verbatim whatever the other person has said. So, I am okay. This is direct speech. Now, indirect speech is when somebody takes this particularly quoted section and improvises it and repeats it, but in his own way, using his own words, changing in tense or pronouns or anything, making whatever changes needed to make it his own statement. So basically, suppose you have said something, or suppose I am saying something right here in this video, and you are repeating whatever I have said in your own way to your friend or somebody else. So that is indirect speech. But if you directly quote me, word by word, expression by expression, whatever I am saying right now, what you are giving a direct speech. So that is the basic difference. So remember, indirect speech is when someone reports whatever the speaker has said in his own words. We have indirect speech. For example, he says that he is okay. So you can see that I becomes he, am becomes is to go with the pronoun he, third person singular. So these changes are made in indirect speech. Now, what is a reporting verb? When we talk about narration change or a shift from direct speech to indirect speech, two things become very important. One is a reporting verb and another is reported speech. Now, reporting verb is very important because you see, it is this verb that determines the tense of the indirect speech. Suppose if the tense is in present, the reporting verb is in present tense or future tense, then there will be no change at all. But if the reporting verb is in past tense, well, you know what happens, right? You have already been through the first part of this video session of this particular chapter. So yes, definitely. When the reporting verb is in past tense, the entire sentence shifts to the past tense. This is, as we discussed, known as backshift. So, reported verb. The verb outside the quoted section in a direct speech is called reporting verb. Now, basically, mostly speaking, we use said or says. So, but depending on the reporting speech section, this verb takes different forms, various forms when we make it indirect. The same word, the same verb in direct speech said can become ordered or requested, asked, told, many forms. And apart from these, which I have just named, there are many other forms which it can take. But for that, it depends on the reported speech. Now, what is reported speech? Basically, reported speech is only that section which we report back to somebody else. For example, if we take the first example, I am okay, this is within quotation mark. Now, this quoted section we call reported speech because we are basically going to report that quoted section. So, reported speech is the section within a quotation in a direct speech is called reported speech. Now, after this, we come to the change from pronoun to pronoun, from direct speech to indirect speech. Now, how this happens? Let's first have some examples, then we will talk about the rules, and then we will formulate the rule in a tabular form so that we can easily remember that. If we just think about the chart, I will provide you with a chart, but if you remember that, if you just take a screenshot, if you just visualize it, you will face no problem whenever you are changing the pronoun from one person to another in narration change. So let's first take the easy one out. First person speaker. Suppose the speaker is in first person, or the reporter. I am speaking, I am reporting. I said something to teacher and I am saying the same thing back. I am reporting the same thing back to my parents back home. So first person, as you know, consists of I, we, me, mine, right? In subjective and objective case, I'm talking. So basically, whatever is related to me or I as subject or object, they all form the first person speaker. So in this case, remember, because it is I who is speaking, I am speaking, I am reporting. So basically, what there is no change at all in the pronoun or whatever you say. There is no change. So let's have the first example. I said, it was times like these when I thought my father, who hated guns and had never been to any wars, was the bravest man who ever lived. Now, this comes from To Kill a Mockingbird, a wonderful novel by Harper Lee, and even more relevant in today's time when we are having this movement like Black Lives Matter, the incident which recently happened in the United States. So this novel really explores the problem in a quite rich manner. But anyway, we are not talking about the novel, but surely you can go back and read it or watch the movie. It is really a wonderful movie. And anyway, we come back to the indirect speech part. Now you see, I said the speaker is first person, and definitely when I am reporting back, so the reporter is also first person. I am reporting it to somebody else. So it becomes, I said that had been times like those when I thought my father, who hated guns and had never been to any wars, had been the bravest man who had ever lived. Now you see that I have used that twice. Basically, it is because when we change speech, we convert it into that. So you can write that, and if you feel that it is sounding odd, you may keep it as it is. So you may not change it even if you feel like it. But as per the rules, you have to change it into that. There are several other things which we change, but regarding those changes, we will come at a later point of time. Right now, note the reporter in this case is I myself, and therefore the pronouns which are within the reporting speech, I thought, my father, right? These pronouns, they are not changing in the indirect speech, it is remaining as it is. Next, let's have a very well known song by John Denver. Right, I think you all have heard the song Sunshine on My Eyes. Even if you haven't, again, just read the lines. It's really wonderful. I said, sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. It is again really a wonderful country music. And you can head over to YouTube or your online streaming service or anywhere else where you can find this song and listen to it. The music is haunting, and I'm sure that it will the music, the lyrics will be stuck in your head for the entire day and maybe even more. But again, let's come back to the indirect speech. So I said that sunshine on my shoulders made me happy, sunshine in my eyes could make me cry. So again, note the speaker is in first person and the reporter is also in first person. I said, and reporting also is done by me. So, sunshine on my shoulders, the pronoun doesn't change. Made me happy, again, the pronoun didn't change. However, the change that we can see, that we can note, is from present tense to past tense. Now, if you have followed the previous lesson on this chapter, you remember that when the reporting verb is in past tense, all the tense within the quoted section, the reporting speech, it converts into past tense, unless it is an universal truth or a habitual fact, unless it is something which is relevant even right now. Now, this can be understood by the context provided, or maybe some aphorism is there, like sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Now, this is, it has been going on since time eternal, so that is a different issue. But in this case, sunshine on my shoulders, it is subjective truth. If you're living in the equatorial area, sunshine on your shoulders is not going to make you happy, right? It is going to make you sweaty, right? And you will go and run for some fridge or anything ice, especially as we can see that the temperature in the plains really in these days it can go up to, right, 40 or 42 degrees centigrade. So really it is a subjective truth, and therefore the tense gets changed from present to past just because the reporting verb is in past tense. Let's have one more example, and this one by the Beach Boys. I said, I love the colorful clothes she wears and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. These Western people, they're really happy with the sunlight, sunshine. They're really happy about it. Maybe it's because they live in colder regions. Who knows? But anyway, again, this is another wonderful song, and you can understand from the lyrics that it is really uh, very romantic and very enthusiastic. So anyway, let's come back to the conversion part from direct to indirect. And we have, I said that I loved the colorful clothes she wore and the way the sunlight played upon her hair. So you see, again, she remains she. Her hair remains her hair only. The change we can only note in the tense from present to past. Again, because this is a subjective truth. I loved. You may not love it, right? Shakespeare, he loved this dark lady. He wrote so many sonnets about it, but you may not love a dark lady. Or who knows, you may do, but again, that is your subjective choice. So, because this is subjective truth, the tense gets changed from present to past because the reporting verb said is in past tense. Now let us formulate this shift, or as you can easily guess by now, there is no shift at all, into a formulaic form. So let's have the next slide. First person speaker versus reporter. So in direct speech, first person, I, my, mine, me, we, our, ours, us. You see, all these are first person pronouns, and in indirect speech, they remain the same, they don't change. The second person pronouns like you, your, yours remains the same, they don't change. Now, you may think why there are so many pronouns in first person and so less in second person. It is because the subjective and the objective case in the second person remains almost the same. But that is not so with first person and third person. So in third person, we again have a huge array of pronouns: he, she, it, his, her, hers, its, they, their, them, theirs. But the point is, no matter whatever the pronoun is, as long as we are in the first person speaker reported zone, we don't change any of it. The change is only in the tense. Now let's have the example of second person speaker. But as I said, remember, all pronouns they change into their respective counterparts during direct to indirect change and vice versa. So now let's have the second person speaker. Again, we will follow the same formula. First, we will talk about examples and then we will present it in a tabular form so that we may remember and you may get the opportunity to take a screenshot or note it down. Either way, it is only going to benefit you, help you understand this change. Now, first example, wise words spoken by Mahatma Gandhi. You said, basically Gandhiji, but since we need second person, so you said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. So you said, my dear audience, you are saying it. So when you are saying it, to whom you're speaking? I am sitting in front of you, so definitely you are speaking to me. So when we are converting it, it will become, you said that we must be the change we wished to see in the world. Now, one side note before we go into the explanation. You see, this is one universal truth. However, we have changed the tense to keep in sync with the basic idea that when the reporting verb is in past tense, we convert everything into the past. If you write the same sentence in present tense, in this case, it will not be wrong. It will be correct only. So now note the change in person. The second person you in the direct speech became the first person we in the first person, right? When we're changing it into indirect speech. Now, you becomes we when the you, the first you in direct speech refers to a plural entity, right? If it is singular, then it would have been I. I must be the change. The basic point remains singular plural conundrum aside, the basic point remains second person becomes first person. Let's have another example. You said to me you are an expert at sorry and keeping the lines blurry. Now, this is again a wonderful song by Taylor Swift titled Dear John. And in that song, Taylor Swift says, you are an expert at sorry and keeping the lines blurry. Now, Taylor Swift or not, that aside, if we convert it, what will become? Yes, obviously, you guessed it right. Second person will become first person. Now, this song, as you can see, is titled Dear John. So, Taylor Swift, Miss Swift, is basically speaking to one person. So, here in this case, you is a singular entity, singular being. So, when we convert it, it becomes you told me, you said to me, you told me that I was an expert at sorry and keeping the lines blurry. You told me, you were speaking to me, so therefore I was an expert at sorry and keeping the lines blurry. So second person becomes first person. And depending on the person or the people being addressed, it can be first person singular or first person plural. When Mahatma Gandhi is addressing the whole nation, it is plural you and therefore plural we. But when Taylor Swift is speaking to me, okay, fine, Mr. John, whoever it is, but let's just assume she's speaking to me. Well, uh, it is singular. I am one and only. So that you becomes singular I. Now let's have another example, a great line from the novel Jane Eyre. You said to him, I could not unlove him now, merely because I found that he had ceased to notice me. A great line, highly charged with passion, coming from Jane Eyre by the famous writer Charlotte Bronte, writing in a time when women are not allowed or encouraged to write at all. So you said to him, I could not unlove him now merely because I found that he had ceased to notice me. Now you see, there are so many persons are at play here. You, second person, talking to him, third person. The quoted section includes first person I, third person him. So many pronouns, right? So many persons. How this shifts? Let's check. You told him that you could not unlove him then, merely because you had found that he had ceased to notice you. So you told him as it is. Said to becomes told him. I in this case becomes you. Just as you became I, second person became first person. So naturally it figures that first person will become second person, just the opposite way. You could not unlove him then. Third person remains third person. Unlove him then merely because you, again, first person converted into second person, had found. Remember SP, PP, PC, PPC. Simple past, past perfect, and past continuous becomes past perfect continuous. So I found, simple past became had found, past perfect, that he had ceased to notice you. So that is how these pronoun changes work. When the speaker is second person, note I use the word speaker, not reporter, because you are reporting. So you said remains you said. If the speaker is second person, then first person converts into second person and second person converts into the first, and third person that remains unchanged. So let's have the tabular form now. Um, First of all, again the same structure: person, direct speech, and indirect speech. And now you see I, my, mine, me, we, our, ours, us. They all change to these things. I becomes you, my, your, mine, yours, me, you, singular, we, you, plural, ours, or sorry, our becomes your, plural again, ours, possessive case becomes yours, and us becomes again you, right? So that is how these shifts. The second person, you, yours can convert into I, me, we, us, my, our, mine, ours. It depends whether you're talking in singular number or plural number. So but these are the changes. He, she, it, him, the third person, whatever it is, they, their, them, theirs, whatever it is, that remains unchanged. It doesn't change. So again, as you must have understood, they all change into their respective counterparts. I into you, mine into your, like that, when we change from direct speech to indirect speech or the opposite. So remember, just to recap, when we are speaking about the first person speaker and reporter, there is no change in the persons from direct to indirect. But if the speaker is in second person, then one becomes two, two becomes one, and three remains three. First person becomes second person becomes first person, and third person remains third person. Now let us move on to the third person speaker reporter. Basically, whenever I am reporting, they are talking, and I am reporting, I am always in third person when we consider them as first, second, whoever they are talking among themselves. To both of them, we always be the third person. So let's have some examples first. He said to me it was a bright cold day in April and the clocks were striking 13. A great dystopian novel by George Orwell, 1984. It's a wonder. It's awesome. I mean, there are no words to express what it is. It is a phenomenon. It is an experience. Reading it is just an experience, and it is even more relevant in today's time, the time that we are living in right now. 1984 has become even more relevant. But again, let's come back to the example, because after all we are not doing a novel analysis, literature analysis here, but Anyway, that would have been really interesting. We are actually doing narration change. So let's come back to the indirect speech. This will get converted into he told me that it had been a bright cold day in April and the clocks had been striking 13. So he said to me, whenever you see there is said to, we are converting into told. So basically, one side note, whenever there is an object to whom one person is speaking, an object, a listener, right? You are speaking, you have a listener, you have an object to whom you're speaking. If such a person is present in the sentence itself, right, whom you're addressing, always convert said to into told in the case of a statement. I repeat, whenever you are saying something, you're stating something, right? You're stating something to somebody else in a given sentence. There is a listener or an object to whatever you say is present there in a sentence. Always convert said to into told. So he told me that it had been a bright cold day in April and the clocks had been striking 13, right? Now, as I said, it was a bright cold day. It had been, you can make it that or you can keep it, no problem. But there are no other changes. Next, we have, he said to you, I like large parties. And this comes from another great work of literature, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, this iconic novel has been translated onto the silver screen with a guest appearance by Amitabh Bachchan and obviously the great Leonardo DiCaprio acting in it. But again, let's stick to the sentence, right? Let's stick to the narration part. And it becomes, he told you that he liked large parties. So the first person I becomes third person he, whoever is speaking. You see, I is basically like a mirror. Whoever speaks, I reflects that person. Remember this. Just remember this. The quoted portion is like a mirror and it reflects the faces which are just present there. So when you are speaking, the face in the mirror is yours. When I am speaking, the face in the mirror is mine. When he is speaking, the face in the mirror is his. So the pronoun I or any first person pronoun just reflects the person of the speaker. Just remember this. The first person pronoun reflects the person of the speaker, whoever the speaker is, whichever person the speaker may be in. Doesn't matter. The first person pronoun will always reflect his or her face or their face. And if there is somebody else present in the sentence, if the person, the speaker is addressing to somebody else in the sentence, the mirror will reflect their face too. So the other pronoun, whichever be the person, second person, third person, whatever be the person, accordingly shifts. So just put this concept of mirror inside your brain whenever you come to narration change, right? So now let's move on to the next part of this example. He said, you never make mistakes, so you never learn. Now, this is an improvised version of a famous quote by Albert Einstein. Now, if we convert it, I have just brought this you to indicate how this mirror works. He said that I or you never made mistakes, so I or you never learned. Now, you see, he said you. So, suppose there is a mirror and maybe you are standing there or maybe I am standing there. He is either speaking to you or he is speaking to me. So he is there, but this you in the mirror either reflects you, your face or my face. So accordingly, when we translate it, right, when we transform it into indirect speech, depending on whose face is there on the mirror, we will use I or you as the pronoun. So this change you have to remember. I am repeating again. Just visualize this mirror in your brain. Now, moving on to the chart part, we have the same thing: first person, second person, third person. And as you can see, the first person, all the pronouns, they change into the respective third person counterpart. As I said, again, see the mirror, how handy this concept is. I, first person, right? It reflects the face of the third person. So definitely when we see, it is only the reflection of the third person. So they become third person. Second person remains second person or first person. Second person doesn't change, or it becomes first person. He may talk to you, he may talk to me, whoever he is speaking to, the mirror reflects their face. If he's talking to me, the mirror reflects first person faces. If he's talking to you, the mirror reflects second person faces. And third person remains as it is, third person. Right. So there is no change in that. And again, remember, all these changes, they happen in the respective pronoun counterparts: subjective case, objective case, possessive case. There are three cases, right? Subjective, objective, possessive. So in whichever case this shift is happening, they take the appropriate shift, right? As per the case. Subject takes subject, object takes object pronouns, and possessives takes possessive pronouns. So this is all about the change or the shift in pronouns. Now let's have this diagram to somehow assess this, understand this, right? A whole overview of whatever we learned till now. Let's have this. So here we have first person, right? First person speaker or reporter, and this person is speaking to or being spoken to by second person speaker. That is, the first person is addressing the second person, or the second person is addressing the first person. Now when the first person addresses the second person, right, first person pronouns, when they address the second person, there are no change in persons. Persons, first person, second person, third person, whatever, they don't change. But when the second person speaker addresses the first person, remember, except third person, all are reversed. Third person remains third person, but first person becomes second, second person becomes first. 1 2, 2 1, 3 3. Just remember this: 1 2, 2 1, 3 3, whenever we are having second person as the speaker. And suppose if there is a third person, now for the third person speaker or reporter, the first person always becomes third person, because it is a mirror. Remember, this is a mirror and it reflects the face of whoever is speaking. So first person becomes third person, and second person becomes either first person or second person, depending on whoever the third person is addressing. If he is addressing you, it is second person. If he is addressing me, it is first person. So depending on that, the pronouns shift, right? So I hope you understood how this pronoun shift takes place. Now a very short discussion on the change in time and place, adverbs and adjectives, some adjectives. Let's talk about it. So we have the chart first. This is a very simple thing. You have to just memorize it. There is nothing to explain here. It is just a thing of memorizing. Now becomes then, here becomes there, today, that day, tomorrow, the next day, yesterday, the previous day, come becomes go, tonight, that night. So whatever. Now if I am to explain why this change takes place, why these changes are there, if I am to explain, I can only say that, you see, whenever we are changing narration, whenever we are changing from direct speech to indirect speech, remember the term back shift. we are positing the indirect speech in some time in the past. The right now current situation is over. We are referring to that part in the past. So now, what is happening now? Tomorrow or the day after it will happen, then past. Here, right here, right now. Because of this back shift, it becomes there. We are positing the place, the situation somewhere in the past. So here becomes there. Similarly, today becomes that day because again we are continuously back shifting the time frame, place frame, the entire scenario. We are back shifting it. It is going back in time and place. So all the current connotations will become past. Come, you are coming here, but when we talk in the past, when I'm positing it in the past, you were going there somewhere, right? So that is how these changes take place. Now, let's have some examples before we close this discussion. So, first of all, we have, he said, we are leaving town tomorrow. Now, this becomes, he said that they were. See, first person we became third person they. They were leaving the town the next day. Tomorrow became the next day because of this back shift. She said, I am going to the movies today. Again, you see, she said that she was. First person becomes third person. And because it is singular, it remains singular. I am becomes she was going to the movies that day. It is back shift. Today, right now, she is telling me something. But when I am reporting this back to you tomorrow, it becomes a matter of past. It has already happened. She has already gone to the movies, right? So today becomes that day. I said I come here every day. Naturally, it becomes I said that I went there every day. Come becomes went. So here we end this discussion, and I hope, even though it is a bit confusing, but I hope I have explained this to that extent where you can at least understand and change the narration from direct to indirect without making a single error in the shift in pronoun or these adverbs of place and time. But suppose you still have some doubt, some confusion, you can always reach back to us and we are here to help you anytime. So just hit us back if you have any question